I think we do have ways to go. We have to make the technology simpler for developers and builders, of these solutions. And we're actively working on that as well. And we also, need to educate the community a lot more around, these scenarios that we think are really going to, unearth some new areas of value for enterprises.
Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Engatica. Engatica's interview series with experts in the area of AI and associated technologies. And I'm your host, Anvis, and I'm glad that you are able to join us today. Today we have Nicholas McQuire as a distinguished guest. He's an expert in AI with a lot of experience on AI and associated technologies, including cloud computing, 5G, and the next generation technologies that is shaping the future of AI. Nicholas has worn different hats throughout his career. He has been a director, a judge at CIO. He's been the board of directors of companies, has also been the chief of research, has also played the role of a CEO and VP. And he's currently working with Microsoft as a director of growth, innovation, and strategy. And he's also focused on enabling startups with newer technologies. So welcome to the show, Nick. And thank you so much for spending your time with us. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on the future of technologies that is shaping AI.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and hello everyone who's watching.
Thank you, Nick. So we'll start off with something that is very close to our heart, which is how is AI going to evolve over the next 5 years, and what are the technologies that are going to shape the future of AI in the next 5 years? And Nick has been doing a lot of work around that at his role in Microsoft. So Nick, over to you, if you can share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, thanks very much for the opportunity to come and share some of our observations. So maybe a quick kind of few words around my role specifically. I think that'll help shape and frame that question well for you. So I'm fairly new to Microsoft, but I currently work in Microsoft's Strategic Missions and Technologies division, or SMT, I guess, as we refer to it. We love our acronyms. Which is really Microsoft's business incubation and scale-up arm. So SMT itself was set up, it was set up in November of last year, and it really serves as the nexus between and the organization that connects both our long-term research in Microsoft Research, or MSR, on one hand, and our current solution portfolio, which is in market, on the other. So our role within Strategic Missions and Technologies is to build, accelerate, and scale what we see are the next generation of 10 billion plus businesses for Microsoft. So there's no pressure in that sense. So at the moment, we're focused on 4 key areas, incubation areas, that are collectively shaping the future of the cloud in our view. So those 4 areas are telecoms, telecommunications and 5G, space technologies, quantum computing, and solutions for the federal government. Now, the federal government is a great lighthouse customer for a lot of those other 3 core technology businesses for us. So that's why all 4 together sit in unison currently within our incubation arm. And as you rightly pointed out before, I did a lot of CIO advisory work as a tech analyst as well. And I'm currently a judge of here in the UK of the CIO 100, which it recognizes the most transformational CIOs in the UK each year. So that role itself from a Microsoft perspective is very much looking at kind of our horizon approach to technologies. It's very much looking at how we can identify and create new business categories for Microsoft. And then ultimately, how do we scale, nurture, scale, and accelerate some of these new growth areas for Microsoft altogether. And so that it's exciting. There's a lot of work to be done. And obviously, there's a lot of innovation coming down the line for customers to really take advantage of and transform their businesses around. So it's exciting times.
Thank you, Nick. So in your opinion, especially if you look at the advancements in the AI area, mostly in NLP and computer vision, the generative models, especially things like DALL-E or GPT-3, those are the ones which seem to be having a lot of hype, but also has a lot of promise. And at the same time, we also have a lot of advances in quantum computing, although we are not very clear how it is going to shape the future of AI. Again, 5G is going to bring in a lot of speed in terms of reducing the latency and download speed. So do you think these are the areas where, or these are the areas which is going to push AI to the next level in terms of adoption?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think there's a lot in there. I think if we start maybe with the kind of progression of these deep learning, natural language processing, large scale AI models, because I think they are a really important starting point in terms of answering that specific question about the opportunity moving forward. If I back up a little bit, what we see is the cloud is absolutely imperative to the development of this innovation. And more importantly, I think in the future, I think the cloud of the future, as it unfolds, is going to play an even more important role in the progression of these large language models as well. And so when we look to the kind of this future approach and kind of towards this innovation, surrounding these supercomputing resources on one hand for AI, as well as these large scale transformer natural language processing models themselves. And by the way, just for the audience's purposes, this very much includes, from Microsoft's perspective, the Turing family of AI models that we've announced over the last number of years, as well as, to your point earlier, you mentioned GPT-3 and the partnership that we have with OpenAI and building that capability out, as well as most recently, last year, we announced Megatron. So the 530 billion parameter model that we're working with in partnership with NVIDIA. We're very quickly getting to a point where, in the foreseeable future, that some of these models will get generated and created, carrying over 1 trillion parameters, for example. So collectively, we call this family of innovation in Microsoft AI at scale. And what's important to understand, and I mentioned earlier about the Horizon framework, how companies can access this type of technology. We very much apply a Horizon framework to operate a balance of very near-term practical accessibility to these technologies, as well as a visionary approach towards transforming kind of paradigms and computing in a longer-term fashion for these large-scale models. So it's important to understand, I think, to kind of frame that question, how we think about horizons at Microsoft. So Horizon 1 is all about kind of our existing business and our existing portfolio of products. Horizon 2 is about how those products will evolve over the next 3 to 4 years. Maybe there's an evolution in the business model, but it's very much applied to kind of technologies and businesses that we see today. And then Horizon 3 is very much about our moonshots, right? Like new game-changing areas or categories that can open up entirely new markets and categories for Microsoft overall. So what's important to understand is when we think about these natural language models, that in this AI at scale family that I highlighted, we're very much taking that Horizon approach to them from an accessibility perspective. So they're available, for example, in a Horizon 1 sense. We see them powering features in some of our products today, Bing, Office. We see it in Power Platform for developers, GitHub for example, have made announcements in that space overall. They also are increasingly becoming available in a Horizon 2 sense. So an evolution on some of the existing capabilities we see today from an AI perspective as platforms in their own right. So customers are able to build on them, to customize them for their own, unique needs and business challenges. And this is really kind of lowering those barriers, if you like, the data science barriers, the cost barriers for companies that want to kind of, solve problems that require this level of capability overall. And then finally, when we think about a Horizon 3 model for these, for these AI scale customers, we're actively looking at and researching and seeing certainly a pathway to where a new paradigm of computing will emerge in a Horizon 3 sense, that we'll start to see the combination of these natural language large-scale transformer models combined with quantum computing that ultimately will speed up the precision, but also just the sheer decision making of these capabilities that we're seeing today. A good example there would be some of the work that can get accelerated in tough areas like molecular dynamics. So, these are some of the domains where and how we think about applying these large scale deep learning models, and also opening up the accessibility to customers in that Horizon sense. It's very much showcases how we kind of think about innovation all up at Microsoft from a platform perspective, but also how we think about it from a customer perspective as well.
Thank you, Nick. That was quite insightful. I think personally for me, I'm betting on quantum computing to solve some of the computing challenges around training some of this large language model, which takes a lot of days to train, needs a lot of GPUs, and at the same time has large carbon footprint. So I'm guessing that if quantum computing takes off, and specifically in providing more computing power to train some of these models, probably it can be done sooner, it can be a lot more cheaper, and it can also reduce the overall carbon footprint. So that's something that I'm looking forward to.
Absolutely. As are we at Microsoft. We're taking a very unique approach to our quantum computing capabilities. And we ultimately see quantum at scale becoming a very important point at which we'll start to see the intersection of these technologies emerge in future. And quantum at scale is very much about how you build scalability, you build in reliability to some of the inconsistencies or some of the challenges that we've had with actually building quantum computers currently in today's environment. So our approach is very much operating in a long form capacity, and we think that this in a Horizon 2, Horizon 3 sense is going to really open up some important avenues for customers, over the next couple of years. So I totally agree with you. It's an exciting capability, and we do encourage customers to start thinking and planning for this next shift coming in terms of computing, but also in terms of the direction of the cloud as well.
So the next thing I wanted to ask you, Nick, is about 5G. I think it has, again, a lot of promise, like quantum computing. And I think in terms of the technology becoming a reality and being put to use, I can see that already happening. So do you see 5G helping out AI and overall making a change, a big shift in the way we do computing once 5G comes into place and is prevalent throughout the world?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think, I talked a little bit about how we see the future of cloud. Part of our vision for that is very much, a fascinating area where we'll start to see the intersection of a number of important advanced technologies to kind of shape kind of new scenarios and solve new problems for customers. Our CEO, Satya Nadella, he talks a lot today about how today's innovations are enabled by the intelligent cloud and the intelligent edge. And they really focus on three major shifts that we're seeing today. So the trend towards ubiquitous computing, the trend towards the advancement of AI, which we've highlighted earlier, and of course, how humans and machine interact from an immersive experience perspective, incorporating things like mixed reality, et cetera, down the line. What we find fascinating is that if we look even further out, we think tomorrow's disruptions that are going to shape the cloud of the future are going to involve a number of these areas and evolve this paradigm significantly when we think about these intersecting technologies. So a good example is how we see kind of the trend towards ubiquitous computing expanded by 5G. I would say space as well is going to kind of create this new ultimate edge, or a new, certainly for developers, a new paradigm for applications that is going to bring compute even closer to solving problems, certainly in areas that were previously out of reach. So 5G for us isn't strictly a network-based upgrade. Rather, we see it actually as a new platform, a new paradigm for developers, particularly for those that are looking to run AI applications at the edge. 5G is going to give, and this is going to take a bit of time to manifest, but 5G is going to give developers more control over those AI-powered experiences that they create, because they can, for the very first time, in cellular, use software-defined capabilities of 5G to communicate and interact more with the network through APIs in order to deliver an even higher performance for their customers, and for their experiences and scenarios that they generate. So a really good example of this kind of in action is some of the work that we have announced earlier this year with Ferrovial, the Spanish multinational, infrastructure company that is really focused on creating smart highways of the future. Now, Ferrovial manage a number of highways across the US and across the world. Essentially, they want to create and build new infrastructure for the roads using 5G networks to create the ability for them to turn stretches of the highway into an API in order to improve not only road safety, which is the key driver, but also the ability to communicate with the increasing kind of interaction of autonomous and semi-autonomous and connected vehicles that are coming onto the roads in the future. So, how they're doing it is just really fascinating stuff. They're building, they're building this connected based over 5G infrastructure that are going to enable the highways to automatically adjust in real time to a number of different changing situations, thanks to IoT-based cameras and sensors that are being placed along the road. And these sensors enable them to create a digital twin of the highway, which allows them to train their AI models to do really clever things like object-based detection for debris or broken down vehicles, as well as being able to adjust the signage along the roads in real time and alert drivers in these connected vehicles of some of the safety hazards that potentially are coming on the road ahead. So this type of vision and the work that Ferrovial with Microsoft are doing today, I think is a great illustration of this new breed of what we're calling a modern connected application, powered by 5G, that uses the intelligence from the network in 5G to power some of these AI-based applications and problem-solving domains in previously out-of-reach areas. For Ferrovial, it's literally at the roadside. They just did not have that capacity previously to be able to do that. So it's a great illustration of that. It's also, as we've talked about earlier, a great illustration of how the cloud is evolving, this future cloud that is really expanding its compute power into areas that were previously out of reach. So, I think altogether, I think that intersection of 5G and AI is really coming alive now. We're starting to see some of these scenarios open up.
Yeah, I think this was a really fascinating piece of article that I read today about how Microsoft is working with them. And for me, autonomous computing is another area where I have a lot of interest. And I also hope that we get the breakthrough, and this is definitely one of those breakthroughs which is happening as we speak. And especially when it comes to real-time video analytics, that has been a real challenge. And now with 5G and the fact that you can minimize the latency to almost a millisecond for API call, I see that promise kind of coming into like becoming a reality. And personally, for me, after I read that article which you had posted, it actually was a good education for me, because I was thinking this is years away, and today Microsoft is already doing that. And I see a lot of applications of that, as you talked about the other areas where it can be impactful, especially with respect to video analytics, maybe healthcare, maybe education, maybe in the police force, and a lot of other areas. And I think overall, in my opinion, text, a lot of work has been done in AI. Image, obviously, a lot of work has been done. And maybe video, voice are the next areas. And hopefully, these are the areas which 5G is going to impact in a significant way and shift really the way we do autonomous computing in the future.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think we do have ways to go. We have to make the technology simpler for developers and builders, of these solutions. And we're actively working on that as well. And we also, need to educate the community a lot more around, these scenarios that we think are really going to, unearth some new areas of value for enterprises. And that is a process that we're actively working through today. You've seen some of the early phases of some of that effort with Ferrovial and some of the blogs that we're putting out. And we'll continue to do that. And we absolutely want to work very closely with customers, co-innovate around these scenarios together to kind of progress this as well. We do absolutely agree with you that there is some tremendous opportunity. We just need to help our customers and developers around the world to really get moving and be educated with the technology as well.
Right. And another related area, I think, since you touch upon the fact that this technology is pretty new and quite complex, and educating the developers, the customers, in terms of the usage and application of it is something that has to be invested in. And I think Microsoft does a good job of that in terms of educating the larger community. So what are the avenues by which you think developers or customers or maybe startups which are looking at the next bet that they're going to put on accessing this technology and being able to use it to solve real world problems?
Well, one key area is the ability, the right forums, as well as some of the tooling for developers. And we're actively working on that with our operator partners to kind of create more of the capabilities around building 5G powered applications in the future. At Microsoft, we've got a number of developer tools. We've got some phenomenal assets in our portfolio to be able to enable developers to create modern distributed applications. And now we need to kind of build that out in the context specifically for 5G. So we're building that as we actively speak. I think that's one area. I think the other area is creating the right forums as well for us and for developers and ISVs to co-innovate around some of these scenarios of the future as well. And that is another area that we're actively working on with our partners from all over the world to facilitate that in a number of different geographies. And what I'm pleased to say is that we've just seen such a tremendous amount of interest from the developer community since we've gone out a little bit more publicly around 5G specifically, in learning more about the scenarios and learning more about how they can leverage this technology. And of course, as I've said earlier, this is going to be a longer term progress for 5G as 5G gets built out throughout the world, as well as the ecosystems that get entrenched around it. We're going to be with that kind of progress along the way. And so I think those two key areas, the forums as well as the tooling, are something that we really want to see kind of grow really quickly to kind of build and help developers create those scenarios. We have a number of different ideas, and we understand certain opportunities for specific categories and specific use cases for 5G. But ultimately, I think we're only scratching the surface with what we're talking about today. And I've highlighted some areas already in the transport logistics area, autonomous vehicles area. Obviously, manufacturing is another a big area. Areas where emergency services and emergency response, all really seeing more and more opportunities there growing. But I think we're just scratching the surface. And what we ultimately want to do is create more tools in the hands for developers to go out and invent those scenarios in the future as well. And I think that's kind of the work that we're actively pushing at the moment.
That's perfect. So since we talked a lot about the promise of these technologies in the future, I think another area that I wanted to quickly touch upon and get your thoughts on is the challenges that people face in adapting or deploying and operating AI models, specifically the new age AI models and in the cloud. So what are the key challenges that you think that needs to be solved? And I'm sure Microsoft is also working on that to make AI more accessible, democratize the usage and access to AI so that it can be used by, let's say, almost everyone who wants to work on new technology.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the main area, there's a number of answers to that question, but I would highlight kind of one of the main areas, and that is just making companies aware of the problems that they can solve using some of these advanced AI, large-scale transformer-based natural language models that we're actively nurturing at Microsoft. And I think what we are increasingly trying to do is to educate the enterprise on this, and beyond just the technical teams as well, like into the business and product teams overall. And we're starting to see a number of areas open up, whether that's around better information search and content summarization, more natural conversations with customers, whether it's in contact centers or in chatbot scenarios, which you'll obviously know very well, whether that's in kind of in the software development space, being able to generate code more effectively. So one of the areas that we're really trying to really address is how certain business functions can be enabled using this capability as a tool, a business tool for their day-to-day work. And really one or two of the key areas that are opening up that we're really trying to help businesses better understand are really standing out for me. I mean, the one area is how these AI models can actually help product development overall. We've seen retailers, for example, using AI at scale, be able to do a number of different things as part of their process, whether it's to track online activity, to identify specific trends in the market from their social channels, being able to decipher the gaps in their current portfolio matched to this online activity. The models are able to perform gap analysis and suggest new areas of growth and product development for the company. Also being able to support product managers in terms of their internal organization, subject matter expert identifications, to help them, move into new product areas as well. So this whole area of product development, I think, is really underexplored, that I think is going to open up quite a lot over the next number of years through the use of these AI models as business tools for customers. I think the other area we're starting to see open up now, and this is kind of in the real heavy R&D intensive industries in the areas of research and development, particularly in healthcare. I mentioned Novartis, I think earlier, medical knowledge is doubling now every 73 days versus every 3.5 years a decade ago. So the ability to keep up with this information explosion now in the healthcare arena is really, really difficult. So what this technology can do to help customers reason over and summarize vast amount of data and information to kind of accelerate their discovery or research and development processes is really, really important. And so we're starting to see companies, we're working with a company called FactMe, which is a nonprofit collaboration of over 30 pharmaceutical companies. They're using these large scale models to improve document search and summarization within their organization, which is ultimately equipping their product teams and their information professionals better response times in terms of document requests from their healthcare provider partners, from an inquiry perspective. So, that whole area of information summarization applied into R&D is probably another one of these big domains that we're going to see open up. I think there are others, but I think those two really stand out from that perspective. And I think ultimately making businesses aware, of some of the functional benefits and uses of this technology as a business tool is really something that I think really needs to happen in order for these to accelerate in the near term.
Yeah, that's very useful, Nick. Thank you. So Nick, now I think a little bit about the work that you're doing. I'm sure that there are some areas which you're looking at to create an impact, things that you're passionate about, problem that you want to solve. So could you please touch upon a few such areas and share with our viewers, what are you thinking? How are you going to approach that? And how do you think others can learn from you?
Yeah, I think what's top of mind from our perspective within our SMT division, Strategic Missions and Technologies, is really to accelerate, some of the core businesses that we're focused on at this current moment of time. They are at different trajectories in terms of their size and market maturity, etc. But we really want to be able to really scale this next wave of growth for Microsoft as part of that. So we're, business incubation is a different kettle of fish than, say, optimizing growth for our existing portfolio within Microsoft. So we're still learning on the fly in terms of how we can, really accelerate that Horizon model from Horizon 2 to Horizon 1. But also support our businesses in those frameworks as well, in those categories as well. So I very much am focused on how we can kind of tell the story for customers around these new scenarios and new categories that are opening up, through the intersection of a number of these technologies that are ultimately shaping the future of the cloud for us. So that's really top of mind, is being able to kind of share some of those experiences, whether it's from Ferrovial, whether it's from Novartis. We've got a number of other customers we're working with on Horizon 2, Horizon 3 scenarios that are really educational for the market to show where we're going. I think what's most important, though, is that the message is that, this isn't stuff that's, longer term, right? Or inaccessible for companies. The key point is that every organization, we believe, has the capacity to innovate and to access these technologies. So this is not just for the advanced R&D or technology firms. This is for everyone. And that's really the key thing for customers. We're trying to accelerate that, make it easy, make it accessible for customers to really start to drive innovation for their company. And, I think secondly, what's top of mind is, yes, we are entering a difficult economic climate, but this really, I think, doubly makes important the process of innovation and being able to look into the horizons and have a plan, and to really kind of, start to look at how you can, leverage some of these technology disruptions that we're talking about here that are coming down the line, that can shape the future of your company, but also, they're shaping the future of computing and cloud as we know it as well. So I think that's really top of mind for me in terms of our group, trying to create awareness and educate around these scenarios, as well as to accelerate those technology areas from an incubation perspective.
Yeah, I think the education is pretty critical, because every day newer things are coming out, the technology is getting upgraded, and I think sometimes I personally find it difficult to keep in touch, get lost. And I'm sure a lot of young people who are just starting their careers also are like trying to decide where to focus on. And education is, I think, one of the ways. And I'm glad that you spent so much of time today educating us about the future of technologies that are shaping AI, and especially the work that you're doing in Microsoft, and the work that Microsoft is doing to kind of solve problems for customers and make it accessible to everyone in the world. Any last thoughts from you, Nick, to our viewers, and anything else that you want to share?
Other than I want to thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be part of it. Thank you for asking us to come along and share some of our observations. We don't have all the answers, so ultimately we want to work with you in terms of creating some of the answers to some of these questions that are still outstanding. But I think ultimately we've got a large number of learnings, both internally within Microsoft in terms of how we apply and are approaching these new advanced technologies, as well as how our customers are approaching them from an innovation perspective as well. So feel free to reach out and get in touch. We're absolutely happy to share some of those learnings, across the board. So yeah, thank you, and feel free to reach out if any of these areas are important to your business.
Thank you, Nick, and it has been a wonderful time that I've spent with you, and I'm sure our viewers are going to benefit from that, and hopefully it opens up thought processes within our employees and the viewers, and we'll especially keep in touch with the work that you're doing, and I wish you good luck and a good day.
Thank you very much, and to you.
Thank you, viewers, for tuning in. And we'll be back again with another expert. And today it was a wonderful talk by Nick on AI and the future technologies that are going to impact AI, and the work that he and Microsoft are doing. I hope all of you can read up on this, and after you watch the video, read up more on this and get yourself educated, so that it helps you to decide what you want to solve. Thanks, everyone. Bye.